All right, here we are. Today we're going to be creating. We're going to be taking these textures that we created in the last video, and we're going to be converting them to planes. We're going to put them on square planes. So I'm going to be creating a new folder. We're going to use the editor functionality to actually do that, and then create a script called utils. And then press enter. Well, I guess double click. Let's close the old one and let's clean this up. And I don't like. Come on. And semicolon. You don't really need the semicolon, but I'm a C programmer, so I'm kind of used to that. Alright, so make sure it's in the editor folder when you do that, and then we're going to be creating another class. This class is going to take the file that we saved earlier, this file, and it's going to be converting into a class, so you can actually use it without actually referencing to the file again. So I'm going to create a file called map settings. Make sure you create it inside the editor folder, otherwise you won't be able to reference it, because they're both different libraries, but so that's why. And we don't need namespace. Call it public class map settings. We don't really need that. Actually, we do need system.io. Alright. So we're going to be creating a variables, actually. First thing, string, segment name. I'm going to get a public setter, a public getter, and a private setter. And then we need the length, public and length getter, and a private setter. And we need something width. Oops. And then xman. Let's copy it and paste 4 times. X max. Oops. Z min. Z max. Oh. Z max. Okay. And then let's create the constructor. And then we're gonna get set. Actually, we're gonna get whatever function actually it gives out the information has to load the actual file and then give out the text information of that file. So, or we can actually make it get the actual file name and then string file name, and then we can actually load it ourselves. All right. Oops. First, what we're going to do is we're going to load the asset, because since it's going to be inside the asset folder and inside the Minimap folder. So, oops, reload. Alright, first what we're going to do is var asset, and actually text asset equal asset bundle. That means we got to import Unity editor using Unity editor asset database dot load asset path. This path is going to be relative to the asset folder. Assets minimap. Make sure you spell it right. Settings. Excuse me. Because to load an asset, you don't really need the extension in Unity. So, and I'm gonna say that as type of text asset. Text asset. Huh. Why it's not working? I guess we gotta import Unity engine, I believe. Yep. So place that here. So I need my. I like to group my import statements. If text asset equals null, we're gonna throw a error Actually, you know what? Let's throw an error instead of because we're actually calling it inside another class. So let's throw new system.io.file not found exception settings file not found under Minimap folder. This way the user will be notified when creating the settings file. Okay, so we got that text asset, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be loading this settings file, this text file into this value. We're going to populate these values with the settings file. So, all right, so I'm going to be creating a stream reader, actually text reader, because we already got the asset file using var reader equal new string reader, and we're going to provide the actual strings text asset dot. Oops, where's the data? Huh. Oh, never mind. Text asset is a text asset. Oh, that's right. I forgot to cast. That's right. All right. Text asset dot text, and this will get the text information inside the file. All right. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looping through until it reads the end of the line, and we're going to be looking for tags that we provided earlier. So I'm going to do a do while loop. Oops. Come on. While reader dot peak is not -1. The -1 means it reached the end of the file. All right. So first we're gonna split the line. We're gonna get the line and actually reader dot read line. We're gonna read the first line. Okay. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the line. We're gonna actually replace any spaces, and then replace them with strict.empty, and then we're going to convert it to lowercase, just in case if the text is in caps. And then we're going to split the line, and line.split, and then give equals. We're going to split wherever an equal sign is. And in this case, we gave two variables. There's going to be one which is going to identify what variable is it, and the second one's going to identify the value. So we're going to get two splits, and what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if there is a split. I mean, I'm assuming there's no spaces or new line in the text file. You can actually look for a new line and then delete it as well, but I'm not going to do it. But if you want to do it, you can go ahead and do it. So I'm going to make sure the length is greater than 1. If it's not greater than 1, I'm going to throw an exception. Throw new system.io invalid. Actually, this exception does not work inside Unity. If you try to throw this exception, Unity is going to complain that this is not found under the library. So instead, I'm going to throw, where is it? Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to throw a file load exception. Map data is corrupted. Okay. If the split is fine, I'm going to get the first split. Oh, not first. Can't spell first. Split, and the first one's going to be the first, and the second is going to be split 1. Alright, and then we're going to switch on the first, do a switch statement, and we're going to first do name. Come on. Oh, god damn it. And then do a break. And if the first, if you get the tag, which is name, we're gonna check to see if it's in between the quotation marks, and I'm gonna do second 0 equal, and this will make sure that the it's in between the quotation marks. So if it is, we're gonna assign this dot segment name equals second dot substring, and then we're gonna start from the first index, not the 0th index, because we're excluding the first quotation mark and the last quotation mark, and then we gotta provide the length. Since we're removing two quotation marks, we're gonna say second dot length minus 2. So this will actually only get the name, and then we're gonna find out if the string is null or empty. If the segment name is null, if there's nothing in between the quotation marks, we're gonna throw a exception. Same exception that we did earlier. Map data is corrupted. And that way the user will be notified. And then we can do the same thing for length. Alright. Okay, and then break. Come on. I have really serious typing problems there. And then we're going to be parsing in .tryParse. This will parse. If the parsing failed, it's going to return false. If the parsing is right, it's going to return true. Second, okay, out, and then we're going to do actual length. I don't think we can do out on properties. I'm pretty sure it's going to complain an error. Yep, that's right. So let's make them private variables. Okay, private int length width. All right, and we're gonna create the same thing, xmin, and then xmax. Oops, I forgot integer. And then zoom in, and then zmax. We're simply going to return this dot xmin. Okay, the same thing there. And I'm really lazy to type, guys, so I'm gonna be pasting all of these. And we got xmax. And oops, nope. Zoom in, same thing. Xmax, zmax. Oh, zoom in actually, and then zmax. All right, so we got that out, and then we're gonna do that. All right. If the parsing failed, we're gonna throw the same exception. Alright, I'm gonna copy and paste like usual, and change it to width. Oops. Alright, and then we got 4 more. Actually, you can create an XML to actually parse all these instead of creating a text file, which is easier. You can actually create an XML reader and writer, but since it's small and I don't really care, that's why I'm just doing it in text file. But XML will be easier than this actually. Xmin, and then Xmax, Christmas, and then we got Zmin. Make sure it's not cap. Everything is simple because we already converted everything to lowercase. So, and then zoom in, Zmax, Zmax. Okay, so the settings file is done. Alright, so let's close that, and then okay, insert that. Okay, then now we're gonna create in the editor files, which what we're gonna be doing is creating the minimap planes. So first of all, what I'm going to do, we don't really need any of these start or update functions, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm gonna create file, actually a menu, and you will be able to select the menu and select the textures and convert them to planes. So the first function is private static, and it's gonna create minimap plane. Create map planes from selection. Oops. And we can add it to a menu item, so we're gonna provide this attribute called menu item. Unity editor, that's true. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing. And then we're going to provide the menu name, and I'm going to be providing the and so you can access it using the Alt U. So if I go back here, give Unity time to compile. What is this? Error. Oh, that's right. Okay, give Unity time to compile, and if you look, what is this complaining about that? Length not assigned. Oh, that's right. I forgot to do that. Get return this dot length. I can't believe I forgot that. Return this dot width. Let's do that. Okay. Let's see if the functions are back. Okay. I guess you gotta click on it. Okay, so that's that function. It's not gonna do anything now because we didn't tell it to do anything. All right. So we're gonna be creating the settings file first. Var map settings equal new settings new map settings. And we're gonna provide the settings file name settings.txt. I think I just loaded without even providing the path. So file name, we're going to load the file name. Okay. You know what? String.format assets. Then and file name. Okay. Settings.txt, and this will load, and if it did not, make sure it actually works. Let's create the function and make sure the settings file is actually loaded before we move on. Okay, it looks like it is loaded. Let's test debug.log msettings. Oops. msettings. Let's get the width. Okay, width is 200, as one might expect. Alright, so the settings file is created, and then we're going to get the actual length equal msettings. Oops, msettings.length, and then we're going to get the width because we're going to be using that later for the planes. Width, this is the width and the length of the plane is going to be, and then we're going to create a function to create the actual plane mesh. Create plane mesh. Then we're going to provide the length and width. Well, you can ask me a question. Why didn't I actually create Unity's GoGameObject and create other and create a plane? Well, the reason is, I'll show you. If you create the plane and if you look closer, as you can see, it's got lots of triangles. It's got infinite triangles. So we don't really want that. We only need 2 triangles, because the more the triangle it is, the more time it takes to render. So, and because the normal is going to be, every vertex is going to contain a normal, so that's what it's going to actually take lighting calculations plus the rendering time. So we only need 2 triangles. So we're going to create this triangle right there and this triangle right here. I don't know if you can see the mouse movement, but I'll be explaining that later. And one more thing to worry about is if you don't know anything about mesh, go to scripting reference and search for, go to manual and then search for creating mesh, I guess. Mesh, I guess. Okay, let's search through all of these. Generating mesh geometry procedurally. So it gives you a really good quick start of what a mesh is and how everything is drawn and how to access mesh components and how to create mesh from triangles and all that. So it's a good reading if you don't really know anything about meshes and all that. So and then we're going to be creating this function first. Okay. All right. Create mesh. Plane mesh. Okay. First, let's create the actual mesh. Okay, for a mesh, you need to actually provide the triangle for a mesh. So I'm going to set the name to low poly mesh. That's the name of the mesh is going to be. And then we need to set the vertices, because vertices are the four corners, actually 3 corners of a triangle. Right there, right there, right there. And okay, this is another important thing to draw vertices is you got to draw it clockwise. If you reverse the order, the face is going to be facing in the reverse direction, because at the moment the back face culling is turned on to actually reduce the plane from rendering the backside, because nobody's going to be seeing the backside, everybody's going to be seeing the top side. So there's no reason to actually draw the backside. That is an optimization the rendering engine uses to reduce the CPU calculations and all that. So as you can see, if you draw it clockwise, if you draw the vertices clockwise, the normal is going to be facing up. If you draw it backwards, the normal is going to be facing downwards. So make sure you draw it clockwise. So we are going to be, and then set the vertices, and then we need vector 3. And we're going to be providing an array, because a triangle has 3 vertices. We're going to be providing 3 vertices. And then we're going to provide new vector, vector 3. It is a good technique, so you provide 3 so you don't accidentally add a 4th vector. So 0, 0, 0. The first vector is going to be at 0, 0, 0, and the second vector is going to be the top one. So it's going to be 0, comma, the width, comma, 0. Width, comma, 0, and then third is going to be the top right. So it's going to be length, comma, width. So that's the third triangle, and then you need the other 3 for the other 3 triangles. So which is going to be the other 2. So we're going to be starting from the top right. So it's going to be this same vertex again. Okay, and then we're going to go down, which is going to be the length, comma, 0, comma, 0. Oh, actually, length, comma, 0, comma, 0. Come on, dude. And then the other one's going to be the left lowest one. So it's going to be the first vertex that we provided earlier. 0, 0, 0, and then in the array. And that's the vertices going to be. Next, we need the UVs, which is the texture. It's just for the texture, how the texture will be split. UVs equal, it's going to be a vector 2, because UV coordinates only has 2 dimensions. Okay, it's going to be the same number of vertices that you provide for the triangle. So it's going to be 3, actually 6, my bad, because we're going to be drawing 6 triangles. Make that mistake. Okay, so it's going to be vector 2. So the first one's going to be always 0, 0. So make sure every vertices has a UV coordinate. And then the second going to be the top one, so 0. It's not going to be 0 width. It is it's 0, 1. So the full image is going to be scaled to the full size. Think of it as a percentage. How much of the texture is going to be drawn inside the plane. So in this case, we're going to fit the whole texture. And then the top one is going to be top, and the other one is going to be starting from the same position as the last one, and then we're going to go down. So it's going to be a 1, 0, and then new vector. We're going to end at the first position that we started. This also has to be clockwise, and we don't really need the normals, because it automatically calculates it when you create it, if you don't calculate the normals manually. And then we're going to provide the triangles, how the triangle is going to be drawn. just going to be an integer array, and make sure the same number. Oops. And first, this is the direction you provide, so it's clockwise. So 0, 1. This will correspond to the vertices that you provide. So the first one is going to be the 0 triangle. Is the 0th index of the triangle? It's going to be this vertex. You provide the actual vertex 2, and if you provide 2, 1, 0, it's going to draw it in the reverse direction, and then 4, 5, and this will give the triangles, and then you can return the actual mesh. Alright, so that's how you create a mesh. Actually, a mesh plane, by the way. And then we're going to be saving this mesh to the asset folder. So we're going to access that helper class that we created earlier. Since the helper class we created earlier is inside the regular folder, we need a helper class for the editor folder also. So just copied it and pasted it in the editor folder. Now we're going to create the actual folder helper dot create asset folder if not exists, and I'm going to create it inside minimap dot mesh. Make sure you save the mesh. It's not going to reference. If you don't save the mesh, and when you create a plane and you upload it into an asset database, it's not actually going to reference the actual mesh they create. I had the problem. I had to scratch my head. I was like thinking like what was going wrong. Then I realized I had to save the mesh. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. And then we're going to create the asset database. We're going to access the asset database and create asset. This will actually create the asset inside the asset folder mesh. And then we give it a name. And provide the path where it's going to be at. Minimap mesh plane dot mesh. And this will create the actual mesh. And what's wrong? Okay, object. Oops. Don't know what's wrong with this thing. The best logo loader. Object, comma, string. What is wrong here? Mesh is an object. Did I? Oh, that's right. I returned object instead of object because Unity has its own function. Or actually, you can call it mesh. Alright, the error will go away. Okay. That's right, we have two classes named helper, so let's name this editor helper just to clear the warning. Okay, let's close that and rename this to editor helper. Okay, so the folder will be created. Then what we're going to be doing is we're going to get the selection. So what you're going to be doing is we're going to select all the textures and call this function. It will create planes for each texture which is selected. So we're going to get the selection equal this, how you call it, selection dot get filtered, because get filter is going to give whatever type you specify. If you specify only textures, it's going to only get the textures. So we're going to get filter the textures, and then selection mode dot deep asset. It's gonna select all the assets which has dependencies. And if selection is not null, we're gonna loop through all the selection dot length, and then get the texture selection I as texture. Okay, this will get the texture. If the texture is not null, make sure you do that. I like doing error checking just in case, so I don't go nuts when I see an error. And we're going to create a material because we definitely need a material to assign the texture to the plane. So we're going to be creating another method, create material, if I spell it right, and we're going to pass the texture and a name for the material. And we're going to be creating a same thing. Make sure you do material to avoid the problem that we had earlier. Material equal new material, and then I'm gonna use the built-in shader lookup method to look for an unlit texture once, because we don't need a lighted shader. Since the unlit textures, unlit shader takes it doesn't take intense calculations like the, if you can use the diffuse shader, but if you go to the reference, you can actually see that the unlit shaders take consume less memory and consume less CPU cycles compared to lit light shaders. So we're gonna find an unlit shader. You can use any shader you want, but it's up to you. And then we're gonna look for texture. That's the shader. If you do not know what it is, just create. If you don't know how to look up what shader you need, just cancel that and then create a sample material, whatever material. I'm just gonna create it for, and this is all the materials, shaders you have. So, and this is what I'm using, unlit texture. You can use whatever you want. You can use cell illumination or transparent or whichever one you like. So delete that material. Alright, so I'm just going to create a sample material of unlit. And then I'm going to set the material dot main texture is going to be the actual texture that was provided, and material dot name is going to be whatever name that was provided. And then we're going to create a folder. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I was going to save this material, but I'm going to let the function which is called to save the material. And then I'm going to return material. And then, okay, now we're going to use the same method to create the folder. And then we're going to create prefabs materials, because we're going to be saving this planes into a folder called prefabs. And the same folder, and materials dot plus name plus. I like using string dot format. It's much more efficient compared to concatenating strings, because it does not create string objects over and over. Instead, it creates only one object. Alright, and then we're going to pass the name. Oops. Okay, it's going to be texture.name. Okay, and I need another curly brace. This will save the material to the asset folder. Make sure you do that. I mean, make sure you save, otherwise you're going to have reference missing exception. And then we're going to be creating the prefab, which is required. Prefab equal create prefab, and then I'm going to provide the give the mesh, sorry, and then the actual texture name. Okay, create that function again. Okay, and then since make sure you do that, otherwise you're going to get the same problem that we did earlier. And I'm going to be providing it the name. Same thing. Variable game object equal new game object, and give the name, create the game object, and geo dot add component. We're gonna be needing a mesh filter, and then gonna be needing a mesh renderer. Make sure you spell it right, and then you're gonna set the position. It's going to be actually we're gonna rotate the mesh to be facing upwards. Rotate. Again, then we're going to be rotating this on the x-axis, so you can provide 1, 0, 0, and the angle of the rotation is going to be 90 degrees, so it's going to be facing upwards. And oh, I totally forgot. We need to set the material that share material equal mat. Same thing, share mesh, share material, which will be shared by multiple game objects. If you don't have any errors, and we do. Got the semicolon, and let's see if there's any more errors. We don't really need this plane, and 6. Ha! See, it's for a reason that I actually provided number 6, because in this case, I forgot to put one number less, well, forgot to put one triangle vertices, so that's why it's good to actually have it. so you won't make a mistake. I mean, it will show you if you make any mistake. Alright, so we're going to be testing it to see if it's working. Select all the select all the textures, and then go to Utils and create map planes from selection. Let's see if it's okay. There is an error. Okay, what is this? Okay, what is going on? Okay, probably you figured out what I did back there. I'm saving the asset one more time because we're already creating the map mesh here. I forgot to put material instead of into mesh, so probably the problem will be let's delete this folder. Let's delete the plane, and then we're gonna do everything all over the folder also. And then we're going to do the same thing, selection, utils, create map planes from selection. Takes a while, just need to create all the planes, materials. Alright, okay, so we got the planes, everything's set up, and if you saw earlier, the textures were stretched out, but see it on the square, these are all fine looking. These are all complete square, and as you can see, the plane is created nice, and we only get 2 triangles. And was this error from this time? Okay, and you get this because I forgot to delete the game objects. It's not a big deal. You can select them and delete it. Alright, so we got that all done, and what we're going to be doing next is create the actual classes to load all these planes over the map